Welcome everybody back to the Messy Middle, One Mom's Journey to Build a Profitable Business. And I am joined today by my new friend, Laura Moore. She's over in the London area, and we just already, as we always do, we had just a great precursor conversation. Laura, thank you for being here. I'm so excited. I'm looking at your website. This is what I want to start with. You're my money bestie. So talk to me about what does that mean to you? Give us a little bit of what you do, what you focus on, what your expertise is, your superpower, and then we'll go from there.
Amazing. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, so I call myself many titles, but I am a money and mindset expert / financial wellbeing speaker. And my aim is to help people confidently build wealth and feel good about money. I think that we are there's a lot of shame and taboo and emotions around money. So really just taking a practical and emotional, so very holistic approach to money when it comes to making it, holding on to it, and growing it.
Awesome. Okay. So how, Laura, tell us a little bit, how did you get started? What was it that kind of shifted in you that said, ooh, I have some weird emotions around money? Because let's just be clear. We all do. So this conversation I know is going to set somebody free as we talk about some of these things. So love to be able to hear where did you start and what was your transition to say, wow, I want to build a business around this because I really see a need for entrepreneurs in this space.
So let me take you back. Basically, when I was 10 or 11, my dream was always to be an actress. I was I'm going to be Kate Winslet in Titanic 2. That was the plan. Yes. And I come from a family that doesn't have a lot of money. I've got 3 brothers and sisters. Money was always a stressor in our house. So when I got to the age of choosing higher education, I didn't want to go to university. I wanted to go to drama school. And that's about £15,000 here. So about $19,000 per year that you had to self-fund. So I was this delusional 18-year-old, and I was better get a job and start saving. Yeah. So got this full-time job. And by the time I was 22, I had saved £15,000 ready to at least start drama school. Okay. And then very last minute, so 2 weeks before I was due to start the course, 2 of my best friends said to me, do you want to come traveling? We're going to go to Australia, going to travel around. Would you like to come? And I was wow, big decision. Yes. Yeah. I've been building up to my life to go to drama school. And then suddenly it's new option. Okay. So I decided to travel instead. I thought once in a lifetime opportunity. And I went to everywhere, Australia, Bali, Thailand, New Zealand, Cambodia, all these amazing places. And whilst I was away, I had this moment of realization, my sort of light bulb moment, where I did not have to choose which one I wanted. Based on which one I could afford. It was which one did I just want in my heart, because I already had the money there. And it was the first time I had a very positive and empowering experience with money. And I was this is really cool. Money is a tool that allows you to have choice and freedom and options. Yeah. So after experiencing that for myself, and whilst I was away, deciding that maybe the actor life wasn't for me. If anybody has ever dipped their toe in that water, it's very hard, very competitive. You've got to have very thick skin. And when I came back from traveling and I got my old job back, I decided to set up a blog, just sharing my experiences. And this was around the time of COVID. Yeah. And then it just took off from there, really. And I honestly didn't see it as a full-time job because I knew nothing about the online space. I was working for a marketing agency, and I just was so indoctrinated to having a salaried 9-to-5 job. I was just doing it for fun. Genuinely, it was out of a passion. I was just making posts and writing blogs. And over time, I just realized that I was good at sharing complicated concepts around money and helping people, but that also it could be a full-time gig. Yeah. So I went all in. And then quit my full-time job. And now I run it as a business full-time, helping people with their money.
Ooh, I love that. Okay, let's dive in deeper to the emotional side of that. I know from our household and my experience that my viewpoint around money and my husband's viewpoint around money were very different. A lot of this old, just with all honor to our parents and grandparents, just weird mindsets, destructive mindsets, not helpful, all this kind of stuff. And then I recently heard from one of my coaches in the United States, there's something like by the time a person hits 18, they consume, I don't know, some 10,000 hours of media that talks about here's these wealthy people. And yet the wealthy people are the ones that are like the thieves and the murderers right. And so we're getting indoctrinated that somehow having money, so you have your old family stuff, but then media is telling us somehow having money means that, and I know this is actually part of my story, is that I associated money with a lot of pain and a lot of abuse. My ex-husband used money as a weapon, right? So there was like all these weird things. So when my husband and I now, when we came together and we started looking at money and talking about money and like breaking down this weirdness that we had and trying to be like, this doesn't fit us anymore. How do we get rid of this? It's been a very interesting journey. And realizing, wow, there's so much more that's available to us instead of having this lack or poverty mindset. How do we step into that? So I love to hear you dive into just the mindset part of it, the emotional part of it in particular. If somebody's listening right now and they have some of the wounds around money, I'd love for you to just tune in because this is exactly what you need to hear today. We're going to unlock some things in you that are going to set you free. Like Laura's an expert in this space. It's going to be so beautiful. So love to hear from you on that.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. There was so much in there that I was like, yes. So let me start off by sharing a little bit about understanding your money mindset and then what my money mindset sort of journey has been in relation to the story I just shared. Mm-hmm. So I would say all of the decisions that we make about money come from a place of emotion and we then justify with logic. And
that's good.
I'm a big believer that the way that you think and feel about money is what your reality will be with money. Mm-hmm. And the reason that is because all of us here, we all have a certain money mindset, and we all have a money story. And your money mindset is just essentially the unique set of beliefs and attitudes that you have towards money that impact the way that you save, the way that you spend, the way that you make. And this money mindset is made up of a range of different beliefs. So you have your individual beliefs, which is your money story, which I'll dive into in a minute. But then you also have societal beliefs. So the way that the society that you're brought up in, like you said, classic one is like having money makes you greedy or selfish or evil. And then there's also different religious and cultural and generational beliefs.
Right.
That all have an impact. And because as humans, especially from a young age, we absorb the messages from those closest to us. We're tribal beings. So that's how we learn when we're growing up. Now, your money story is essentially the impact that your childhood had on your core memories of money that are how you start to view money and how it works in the world. So my money story is, like I mentioned before, my parents worked. They had to go back to work when my brother and sister came along. We were a big family and they were working a lot. My mum worked in retail. My dad was a self-employed trader. He was 7 days a week out. But what I saw was we were still struggling. So parents always out, working all the time, chucking around phrases like money doesn't grow on trees. Yes. It's not that easy. I'm sure a lot of you listening to this will resonate with that. And so I built up a belief that money is hard to make and money is hard to hold on to. And between the ages of 0 to 7, so when you're younger, your brain waves are at a different state and you haven't yet formed an analytical mind. So when you're hearing all these phrases, you're seeing your parents maybe stressed or different experiences and it makes you feel a certain way, you can't question, is this true? Like we would as adults. It's just, oh, this is just the reality. So they say that apparently your money mindset is set around age 7, but it then plays out over your sort of teenage years. And naturally we have other experiences that if there's a strong emotional experience can impact and remain. But, the example I give is because we're like little sponges, imagine if you came out of the womb wearing a pair of glasses that had no lenses in it. And that's the way you view the world objectively. But every time something happened or you heard a phrase or you read something in the media, a little bit of stained glass gets put in. And as you get older, you then have this pair of stained glass windows through which you view the world and the way in which you view money. that isn't objectively true, but you yourself believe it to be true because it's all you've known.
Yeah.
And because we have something in the brain called the reticular activating system, which is essentially like priming and filtering your brain, because we can't take everything in all at once. And your brain is constantly looking for experiences to reinforce that what you're saying to yourself is true.
Right.
So with all of that being said, what happens when you're younger, though your money story, that's going to have an impact on how you then view money. So because I had this opinion that money was hard to make, when I was like 16 and I got my first ever job, I was a total hoarder. I was so scared of not having enough. I would just make money as a 16-year-old, not making a lot, and I would hold on to it. I didn't want to spend it on new clothes or new things, and I just held on to it. And what's interesting is my brothers and sisters who were raised in the same household with the same parents all have a different money story.
Yeah,
they heard the same things. It's so interesting. And my brother went the other way, and he was like, if money's hard to make and money's hard to earn, I might as well just spend it. So two very different ways in which that manifested. And I'm sure as you're all listening, there will be things that you start to think about that's like, oh, I remember this phrase, or, oh, I remember this memory or this thing. And part of uncovering this is like having that awareness of what your money story is. Knowing that even though that was your story, it doesn't have to be that way. Understanding where your beliefs are now, like how is it hindering you or is it helping you? And then what is it I need to do to shift through that? But awareness is always the first bit when it comes to your money story.
I love that. This is so exciting. That's awesome. Okay. I just want you to keep going. I don't even want to pause for questions.
Okay. I am a big believer so I've got a 4-step method. Let's talk a bit about the sort of 4-step method, because money shows up so differently for everybody. And a lot of us are emotional spenders. Whether you've had a stressful day at work and you spend, whether you've had a hard day in your business and you end up buying a business course out before being mindful and thinking about it. Maybe there's so many different ways that this can show up. Or you might be listening and you're like, oh God, I never spend my money. Spending my money makes me feel guilty. Still an emotion. There's so much emotion attached to it. And part of this is humans struggle with, because I don't believe that we're taught the soft skills and emotional intelligence in school, especially not in the UK. I don't know. It's like in the US. Nope. We don't get taught how to sit with our emotions and let the emotions move through us. It's okay to have quote unquote a negative emotion. I am a really big believer that being a human, getting this experience as a human, it is to experience the full range of emotions. So no emotions are bad or good. We just have to feel them, and they're either indicating something to us that we need to shift. Sometimes they can be really useful. And how cool that we get to feel sadness. How cool that we get to feel heartbreak, all of those things. But what happens is when we feel those negative emotions, we don't know what to do with it. We don't know when it's going to pass. So we try and change our emotional state. And sometimes that can be caused through spending or overspending. So part of working on your relationship with money and my sort of 4-step method is, the first part is awareness. So like I mentioned, really getting to understand what are your current beliefs, what is your money story? And you can ask yourself, journaling is a great way to do this. I recommend working with a coach because you can get deeper, but starting on your own, working just pen and paper and being like, what are my earliest memories of money? Who do I feel influenced me the most when it came to money? And then what do I believe to be true about money now? What did that lesson teach me, or what did that experience teach me? And just getting very curious, judgment free, because the key thing is that our brains have neuroplasticity, which means they can change. So no matter what age you are, no matter where you're at in your life, and even if you are one of those people who's, I've always been bad with money, or I've always had debt, or I'm just that person, you can change. Because ironically, that is the language that is keeping you stuck. So the sort of second and third part of my method is believing that you can change and having a growth mindset. There's an amazing book by a lady named Carol Dweck that is called Mindset. And it talks about the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. Growth mindset being you believe that the talents, the skills, the intelligence that you have can be changed and improved through hard work and guidance and practice. Fixed mindset is those people that we meet who say, I'm stubborn. It's the way that I am. It's the way that I always be. Or I'm awful at maths and I'll never be good. Feeling like all these things are fixed. But if you simply by understanding the difference between a growth and a fixed mindset leans you into having a growth mindset, interestingly. So believing that you can change, and then change the third part is changing your language. Language is so powerful. And I know we touched on this right before the sort of call around what we're declaring out into the world, but language is so powerful. And the thing I love about this is it's free. You can literally start to change your language right now. Humans love to label themselves. I'm vegan, I'm pescatarian, I'm this, I'm that. And sometimes labels can be really useful if they help you. But a lot of the time we box ourselves and it causes issues. For example, if you are trying to save for a house and you keep saying to your friends or yourself, oh, it's going to be so hard to save because I'm such a spender. What do you think your body is going to do? It's like, all it is I'm a spender, behavior wise. Okay, I'm going to act like a spender. So then you spend. So then your brain goes, see, told you you were a spender. And it becomes this big, like, self-fulfilling prophecy. So starting with language shifts is amazing. And I think sometimes people think it's too simple. They're a bit like, surely I need more than that. But it's such a good place to start. And that could be as simple as saying, I am a saver. Or if you're running a business and you're struggling to get your head into certain things, like having an abundance mindset and saying there is money available to me. Money flows freely to me. But the key thing is about the words that you say you need to feel it. You need to have an emotion, which is why I say, do not wake up in the mirror and be like, I'm a millionaire. Because if you have £10 or $10 in your account, your brain is going to be like, shut up. I don't believe you. So it's like incremental changes and using mantras and affirmations to support where you want to go, as opposed to just too much faking it till you make it.
I don't like the faking it till you make it idea. I think that's because really our brains are always, they have an evidence file, right? I'll just put it in different language. What you said is the evidence file. So everything I speak out, my brain's always trying to prove that it's true. So if I'm constantly saying something negative or something that's not where I want to go, as opposed to I am powerful, clients are always flowing to me. The content that I create is valuable. I am valuable. I'm worthy. And so now my brain's, I can feel it actually shifting right now as I'm saying it. So my brain's always looking for evidence that those things are accurate when I say them out loud, as opposed to saying, I'm this and all the lack. I don't even want to say it anymore. Right. Because my mind's always looking to prove what my words are saying. And so I love that. I love what you're talking about on this, Laura. So
and I always say, so two things off the back of that. One, our brains, unfortunately, were not designed to keep us happy. It'd be lovely if they were, right? But happiness is still an emotion, and emotions are still fleeting. So whatever emotion you're chasing, it's never going to remain. You cannot grasp and hold on to emotion. They come and they go, which is both frustrating when you're like, oh, I'd like it if I was happy all the time. But when the pendulum swings one way, it also has to swing the other way. But the nice thing about that is that if you feel negative emotions, they're also going to pass through you. But your brain is designed to keep you safe. Your brain it's a pattern seeking, it likes patterns. So it's going to try and conserve energy by figuring out what it thinks the future is going to, and what's going to happen in the future based on what's happened in the past. But that doesn't have to be the blueprint, because I believe what actually happens is if you focus too much on what's happened in the past and you allow your subconscious brain to take over, what you're doing is creating the future with that. So it's having the autonomy to change the direction of that by starting with using your language. And I think we've all experienced this, right? You are going to buy a new car and you're like, do you know what? I really would love to drive a red Vauxhall. Suddenly you start seeing those cars on the road everywhere. And you're like, I don't remember seeing this before. Because your brain is, okay, cool. You want me to look out for those things.
Yes.
So that's a clear example of that part of your brain working. You could apply it to, like we said, I am worthy, my content is valuable, I have clients flowing flowing to me, because sometimes we don't realize that we are blocking our own abundance and opportunities with the words that we're saying to ourselves, with the beliefs that we have. And so when it feels like we don't have the things that we want, what actually might be happening is we're just missing it. This is very common.
So good.
And this is really common when people budget, both in business and personal finance, and they feel like they're not budgeting properly. They feel like they're not doing a good job. They feel like X, Y, and Z is happening. But when I sit down and go through maybe their budget with them, I go, this was good and this was good. But they've objectively not been able to see that because they've already been focusing for the places maybe where they messed up a little bit or went outside budget. I say, that's okay. Those things happen, but let's focus on the good things that you did. This is amazing over here. You are capable. And shifting your identity is the key to changing your behavior. Like, you cannot act, you can't just think yourself into a new way of acting. You actually have to act yourself into a new way of thinking. So whilst the words are a great place to start, taking small actions off the back of that is key. So whether it's setting yourself little targets around, it could be anything. It could be if you're trying to save for a new goal, it could be one day literally saving £10 or $10. That is evidence to say, I am a saver. Or maybe it's with work and you're trying to bring in a new client and you just have one really great conversation that could lead to something, really celebrating that and being like, wow, I took action. It didn't take me that long. And potentially something could come off the back of that, and really focusing in on those things. And then over time, it becomes like this symbiotic kind of spiral of you're acting better, which means you start thinking better, which means you start, and it grows on. So it's I would say use this podcast and what you're listening to as a catalyst to say, okay, what has happened? I'm not going to judge myself. I'm not going to try and question too much around the why. I will explore non-judgmentally and understand maybe what has happened. And I will use it as like a blank slate to start to make some shifts around my relationship with money.
That's awesome. Okay. So I want to just backtrack just a little bit and then catch up with you. So one thing that you were talking about when you were discussing emotions, and I love this, is being able to just acknowledge that, hey, this is what I'm feeling. My feelings are valid. Hold on to that, give it some respect, honor it in yourself, but then be able to let it go. So whatever your time frame is that you do that, I heard one colleague of mine that said, I make a correction, somebody that I was podcasting with, she says, I give myself like a 10-minute window to sit in the emotion, acknowledge it, recognize it, honor it, but then let it go. So then she gives herself some boundaries so that she's not getting stuck in the negative emotions in particular. But then if we take that full circle to what you were just talking about and being able to say, okay, what we're trying to do is create a path to have the positive emotions flowing over and over again and recognizing. And then what I love that you just said, Laura, is that working with someone else, working with a coach, investing in yourself and investing in a coach to be able to help you push back past your own limits. Because don't we know sometimes we can only take ourselves so far, and then we need other people to come alongside of us to say, wow, can you push me a little bit harder? Can you help me to unlock some things where I'm stuck? Can you help me to shift my mindset? Can you help me to stay accountable? That's the wonderful season that we're in life today, where we can invest in excellent coaches like myself or yourself to be able to say, wow, how do I do better? How do I grow in this area? How do I actually stretch myself a little bit farther than what I've been able to do before? So I love the way that you're explaining this, because I know that somebody's listening right now and they're like, oh my gosh, this young lady, she's amazing. She can totally help me unlock some of these areas where I've been stuck, not just because she's had the experience to be able to walk through this, but she knows what she's talking about and she can push me a little bit farther than what I really have the ability to do on my own. And there's no like any of the weirdness that we have in our mind dancing around that says I can't invest in a coach or I need to get everything for free. Can we just agree that we can lay those ideas down? Because they're lies. I would even put it in this term. It's lies from the enemy of our souls that say that everything is a no. And instead, God says there's an abundance around for every one of us. There's an abundance of figuring out ways to pay for stuff. Then there's abundance of different ways that we can utilize money to have leverage in our businesses and in our lives. There's an abundance of coaches that are around that are amazing and that are for us and that love us and want something better for us. I love the way that you're describing it, Laura, because you're just unlocking things in people that are listening right now. So it's just awesome. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, you had laid out the first 3 steps. Okay. And so what would be the 4th step in the process that you walk somebody through?
So the 4th step, which I touched on, but it's about strengthening having an abundance mindset.
I love that.
When we lean into lack and fear and scarcity, and whether it's consciously or subconsciously saying, there isn't enough, there's not enough clients, that person over there has got more clients than me, so that means I don't have enough. That person over there has more money, so I don't have enough. And we're always focusing on what we don't have. We are creating more of that because that's what we're focusing on. So to be able to start to build an abundance mindset, there's a couple of things you can do. One of my favorite, most simple things is around practicing gratitude. I think, again, like journaling, it's surely something so simple, but sometimes the basics are what we need to start. Yeah. Practicing, having a gratitude practice, but not just where you wake up and go, oh, I'm so grateful for my health. Because sometimes we get into a habit and we become accustomed to saying the same things. But I like to I have on my phone, I have a notepad that just says 2024, January, and every single day as good things happen. It can be, I enjoy my morning coffee. It could be, I had a lovely conversation with somebody walking down the road. It could be a big offer came up. I make a note of it in either at the end of the day or as it's happening.
Yes.
I have this giant notepad of all these cool things, loads of different things.
Yeah.
And you're practicing the gratitude as it happens.
Nice. It's
like feeling it in your body. So that's one thing. And then another thing is really around, I'm a big believer in like using visualizations. Our brain is so powerful.
Yes.
And there's this quote that I love, which is like, fear and faith both require you to believe in something that hasn't yet happened. So which one are you going to lean into? Yeah. And you can use visualizations, and a lot of us do it, right? We used to do it all the time when we were younger. We used to daydream, just think about things, and it makes you feel nice inside, and then sometimes you take action. So you can do this with money, and there's loads of different ways you can do money visualizations. Some of them are more like, I guess, spiritual and ethereal, where you're imagining yourself surrounded by money or in different lights, or you can do more practical ones where you are imagining yourself with money, and what does that version of me look like? What am I wearing? What am I doing? And you're allowing ideas coming to you. You can have a sudden idea where you're like, why haven't I reached out to that person? I just remembered I met them at a networking event and they said, reach out when da-da-da-da-da. And I'm a big believer, like with ideas and creativity, if you have chosen to especially go from a 9-to-5 job to running a business, everyone is creative, but you're really tapping into that creativity, and to make money requires creativity. Money can be made in such a wild amount of ways. Yes. Sometimes money can just come to us. And I'm a big believer that money isn't good or bad. It's just the emotion that we as humans choose to attach to it. So we have a choice to attach to money strong, positive emotions, and focusing on not the money, but why you want the money is going to allow you to bring in more of it through whatever means. So for me, and I talk about this concept on my podcast, on my socials, this concept of achieving my big happy goal. So my big happy goal for at least like the next 5-10 years is to be able to work and travel, to be able to make money and build my wealth while seeing the world. Nice. That's my dream. And I visualize on it. I talk to people about it. And when I think about the money and I think about what I'm getting and I'm bringing in clients and I'm doing the work and I'm doing brand deals, I imagine myself where I'm going to be. I imagine those and the feeling that it's going to give me, how that version of myself. And the more you can close that gap between current you and future you, and money is just the vehicle to get you there. Yeah, and part of this sort of step of abundance is reframing what money means to you, and the words that you use about it, and the belief that it is possible for you. That's when you can start to shift. Because of all the very wealthy people that I have had networked with and had conversations with, one of the biggest things that they all have in common is this belief that no matter what, there is
Yeah.
enough for me and I am deserving of it.
That's
Wanting
right.
it doesn't make me greedy. Wanting it doesn't make me a bad person, because money is an amplifier. So the more money you as an individual have, the more good you can do in the world. Somebody else's behavior with money, if they are actually like, they have loads of money and they're a bit of a asshole, that's not on you, right? Because you can't change someone. But if you have more money, especially as a woman, there's loads of stats that show the more money that women have, the more generous we are, the more we give, the more we can start shopping with independently owned businesses. And touching on that point you said before about like investing in a coach and people that can help you. One thing I had to learn early on was that side of it, because I was such a hoarder and I was so scared.
Right.
When I first started up my business, I thought, I'm going into a business where I'm hoping that I will offer value and somebody is going to give me their money in return. That's the value exchange. But if I'm not doing that myself with my own money and I'm stopping the flow of my own money, it's how is it going to come back to me?
Yeah.
Because I'm asking somebody else to put faith in me and my skills. So it's this flow, allowing this flow of money in sort of whatever way, which is only going to increase what you bring in. So it's like maximizing on those opportunities. And this all kind of, it's very broad step, but it all comes under the umbrella of like building, strengthening and maintaining your abundance mindset.
I love that. I love that. I also love, you touched on this real early, and I have heard and read and practiced and studied this myself. There's a difference between creating money, saving money, investing money, right? Spending money. Like those are actually 4 different categories of how we process and the emotions around money, because we can be somebody who's been super successful in earning money if you work for a job, or creating money if you're an entrepreneur. But then you see people who make a lot of money and then all of a sudden it's gone, right? And so the reason I call that out is because if somebody's listening right now, like, what would be some of the things that you'd coach them on a little bit, the difference between, so we've talked a lot about more of the earning and creating side, and I touched a little bit on the saving side, but what would be some, let's touch on that a little bit, the difference between what do I do when I have it, and then being okay with actually having it instead of hoarding it, being okay with it flowing. What you just talked about is having it flow in and out of my life. I know that, like, visually, I always think about this, and I taught my kids this. If I have something that I'm receiving, I'm going to put my hands up so you can see them. If I have something that I'm receiving and you're giving me a gift, it can be whatever gift that is, and then I grab it and I hold on to it really tight, then that means I can't actually take in any more of a gift. Is that it's, if I'm going to take in money and I'm going to hold on to it really tight, spiritually, practically, metaphorically, emotionally, then there's no room for actually any more to come in. But instead, if I keep my hands open and the cup's flowing, then what happens is I can take it in and some of it can go out and then some of it can stay and more of it can come in. And right. And I love that. Like I love, in our household, we love practicing what I call radical generosity, like big moves with money. Let me just say, if you haven't ever experienced this in your life, one of the funnest things that you can do with money is actually give it away. It's one of the most fun things that you can have. You can bless others, and you love to travel, like helping others travel with you, giving to whatever organization that you love, giving to your church, like seeing the world expand because more resources have been trusted to you. And that's actually so much fun. Like I get so much enjoyment of, I love creating it and I love bringing it in. I love putting it in all the buckets that we use in our household, but I also love, maybe even more than anything, being able to bless other people with it because it's just so much fun. Like that is just so exciting. So I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts on that, Laura, about those kind of those different ways that we utilize money, and more specifically around the saving and spending and investing and giving?
So first of all, I love that. I'm such a big fan of generosity in whatever way that looks.
Yes.
Like part of my kind of big future goal is I will be in a position to year on year get 10 of my closest girlfriends all together, say, put this weekend in your diary, give your kids to your partners, put your businesses on hold. You don't need to worry. I'm paying for us all to go away. You don't have to think about anything. The whole thing is on me. So it's like girl time, laughter, no money worries, and it's on me. That is a really big goal of mine. And it's like you say, that feeling that you get from giving is, whether that, like you say, to charity, to church, to your friends, to family, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it shows, I believe, leans into having an abundance mindset, because it shows that you believe that when you give, more will come back to you more.
Exactly.
Which I'm a big believer in. So I guess touching on, this sort of like saving, spending, investing is, in life, we all get taught how to spend. Really. You get a job, you get told you get paid, you have to pay your bills, and then you're just constantly marketed to through social media and online. Buy this, you have this problem, buy this.
Yes.
And some people find spending very easy and struggle to hold on to money. And some people go on the other side and struggle to spend and enjoy it. So I'm going to touch on both.
Okay.
If you see yourself as a spender and you're like, I really struggle to hold on to money, there could be loads of reasons why this might be. For example, I've worked with a client who had really low self-esteem because she was bullied in school. So what was happening is, when she got money, not only did she not feel worthy of holding on to it and being wealthy, she also was spending that money on makeup, diet products, random things around her house, none of which she was taking action on, and they just sat in her wardrobe. But she felt by buying them, it was going to help her get to it. It was her inner child screaming out for those things. And that's just one example. There's loads of different ways.
Right.
So sometimes identifying why you think that might be is helpful. I don't think we should dwell too much on the past. I think it's good to analyze and explore, but not to focus. So do some exploring, but then start to take the action. And I'm a very visual person. So I love to think of the money mindset work is the foundation part. So let me go back a bit, right? Let's just say you were building your own house and you bought all this amazing furniture and artwork and all this cool stuff. But then you built that house on a pile of mud. The house is going to fall down. The foundational part is the money mindset. Right. All of those nice to haves that are important to make your home homely and enjoy it is the practical stuff that we do, the spending, the budgeting, the pension plan, the investment accounts. They're still very important, but they are the kind of after part after you work on your relationship. But if we think about money as a flow, so you have your income, whatever that is, 9 to 5, entrepreneur, business life, side hustles, benefits, whatever, gifts coming in. Like you say, you don't want to siphon too much off into a stale lake, because it's just going to sit there and it's going to rot. Some kind of goes off here, some goes off here, some goes off here. And I talk about this concept with personal finance of the 3 S's. So your expenses being split into 3 S's. One is survival. So what do you need to spend money on? How much does it cost to be you? Living expenses, rent, mortgage, all of those things. Right. Then you have spending. So that's how are you spending your money in the now on things that are experiences and that you're getting to enjoy. And that's going to look different for everybody. I love to spend my money on travel, health, education. They're the things that bring me joy in the now. Right. And then the other S is success. So is it that you are trying to become debt free? Is it that you are saving for a house or to go traveling? Is it that you're investing for your retirement? Hopefully everybody is. But that's the success part. Right. And that balance and that flow is going to look different for everybody. But it's important that they're all there. And when we think about spending and enjoying your money in the now, is if you are somebody that does struggle to spend or doesn't enjoy it, I always say, like, give yourself a little like fun fund. So a little pot of money that you can spend in the now, guilt free. And you can see, oh, this is really cool that it got me X, Y, and Z. Because if you are like, life is here to be experienced and money is just a tool for that. So finding that right balance, that survival that allows us to sleep well at night, rest your head on the pillow and not be worrying about money, spending, getting to raise our vibe in the now, getting us to inspiration, more creativity, stories to tell, and then success. How am I helping my future self so I don't have to work forever and I can step away? Those 3 all play a part. And that's where I guess the practical element comes in of having a spending plan and educating yourself on personal finance around those topics, understanding what you need to put in your pension, or I don't know, what do you guys call it, a pension?
Retirement,
retirement, like a Roth IRA. And
yes.
And really, I guess this is where you get to question, like, where is the sticking point for me? There's going to be bits you find easy and bits you find hard. So for you might be like, spending and saving is actually okay. I've got the balance. But I am so scared of investing for the future because to me, it's risky. It's scary. I heard a story about how my uncle lost everything. So finding where your sticking points are, and then that's where you can focus. What do I need to educate myself on? Because knowledge is power. So learning about those things and then putting them in place is really useful.
I love it. I love that it's so practical what you're talking about, Laura, because you're really giving me and listeners like just tools that you can implement right here, right now. I also love that sometimes when you hear people talk about money, they'll say things like debt is bad and just all this language around how parts of money or using money and there's like a shame that goes around it or there's something bad. But really what you're talking about is you're just making some decisions that, yes, these areas of our lives need to be taken care of and that we have the power and the authority to be able to decide what that looks like, especially when we're working somebody that can hold us accountable and give us good, healthy balance. And then once we make the decisions, then that's where the freedom comes in. And it's a system. I love systems. Like
me too.
Systems are so fun. Because here's the thing
about
about systems. Like I know everybody, so let me just give an example. In our household, I love systems and they're not sexy, but the discipline of a system, it works all the time, every time, gives us great success, especially in the long run when we just keep doing it over and over again. So when my husband and I first met, he was used to and raised in a household where it was like just these big spending, big money coming in, like all this kind of thing. And so what would happen is there are like these fits and spurts and there was no system at all. And it was all based on, I'm just going to do with whatever I want with my money at that point in time based on how I feel. That resulted in a whole bunch of debt.
Yeah.
And when I talked to him, I was like, what did you even spend the debt on? Like, no judgment, just, do you know? And he was like, I don't even know. And so working together and figuring out how do we put a system in our household that helped both of us recognize our strengths and our weaknesses and then lean on one another and help one another. Like it totally transformed the way that we even relate to one another. It helped our relationship. I love that. So I love what you're talking about. I love the system element to it, but I love that it also has no shame, no fear, and a great amount of flexibility that helps each and every one of us. So here's what you can't walk away from this conversation. I'm going to challenge you. You can't walk away from this conversation and say, what Laura and Anita are talking about today, it isn't for me. You just don't do that, right? Know that you've been given tools and you've been given resources and you've been given a blueprint that you could actually layer into your own life and you could start seeing success. It doesn't really take that. I'll tell you from experience. We went from having debt in our household to being completely debt-free, no mortgage, no nothing, none of that stuff anymore. We've done it actually a couple of times. We had a medical crisis that happened that caused our household to shift things and then paid off like $100,000 in debt in 4 months just because of a unexpected emergency in the hospital. These things really happen. But anyway, know that as you're listening today, know that you've been given a blueprint to freedom so that you can go and live the life that you were meant to live. Like you can take those heart's desires and be able to walk those out, whether it's travel. I love traveling too. That's like my love language. So yeah, it totally resonates with me. Like me having fun, working, travel, enjoying my family in the process, enjoying friends in the process. I'm like, yes, let's go, girl. Let's go travel.
Yeah, travel is
awesome.
The best. And I think just to touch on that, like having goals that you are working towards. If you aim at nothing, you're going to hit every time.
Yeah.
And it's the same with your money.
Yeah.
Unless you're planning to literally leave society, go and live off of the land, grow your own veg, and you really don't need money because you've gone off grid, which is a very small portion of what people want to do. And I imagine anyone listening to this podcast is not that vibe. Like we're entrepreneurs, we're ambitious. We want that good life. We live in a capitalist society where we need money.
Yeah.
So it's don't try and beat the game, just join it. Go, how can I make this work for me? And the great thing about financial systems is you get to pick what that looks like. And once you've done the hard work once, you've sat down, you've had what I like to call a money date. So you sit down and you date your money, you figure out what's going on. Once you've done that once, you can even automate it if you want to. Some people like to do it manually and have that relationship to it. And I think it's always good to check in monthly or weekly with it. But you could automate, okay, I know that I pay myself on this day, but from that, X amount goes in savings, X amount goes in investments, X amount goes in a spending account, and then I do the things that I need to do. And the focus, the mindfulness goes more into how you're spending your money every month and just making sure that you're staying on track with your financial goals. And it's about removing the shame, removing the fear, and just removing the heightened emotions around it. And it doesn't mean it's going to happen just like that. Some people it will. They'll be like, oh my God, light bulb moment, everything's changed. But for some people it'll go, light bulb moment, okay, let me try this. Let me try my own way. It's going to be a bit of trial and error. It's going to be, I've got to try that kind of work, that kind of didn't. But like the experience of getting to learn how to manage your money well is what's going to make you successful. You don't have to love it. It's okay that you might not like it, but what you can do is reframe it and be like, I know that I'm doing the hard things. It's going to help me get to where I want to go.
That's right.
It's going to taste all the sweeter.
Yeah. Yeah. That honestly, my husband would walk around after implementing a system in our household. He'd be like, I didn't like it at first. I went kicking and screaming, but now we have so much more freedom and I love it.
Yeah.
And so he'll share that story with lots of other people, young couples, that kind of stuff. They're just getting started. Other guys who resonate with his story as a guy of I used all the things. I used to have $1,000 in my pocket all the time and I felt so good about myself. And right. And now we do it differently. Right. I don't know. These days it's almost like who even has cash anymore? I don't know.
Who even has cash?
My kids are like, Mom, do you have some cash? And I was like, not really. Like you can have my debit card. But
you're going to have to go get it out.
Oh, Laura, thank you so much for your time today. You've been such a blessing in so many ways. Do you have a way that you'd like if people want to learn more about you or reach out to you? Like what would be the next step for somebody to engage in you further?
So I am on pretty much all the social media platforms. So I have my website and I'm on Instagram. I am on TikTok. I'm also on LinkedIn and I also have a podcast. So I do like very short, like 10 to 20 minute episodes on all this stuff that we've been talking about. And I have an email. So also more than happy for you to reach out on whatever medium kind of works for you, whatever platform is best.
Awesome. Awesome. So we'll make sure to put all those in the show notes, but just if you're listening right now, it's Laura Moore with Mind, Money, Soul. And so you'll be so blessed to just connect with this sweet young lady. I just want to thank you so much. I love what you're doing. I love that you're setting people free. I love that you're setting yourself up in your life to do what you want to do at such a young age. And so I just want to encourage you, keep going. You're doing a great job and you're just blessing people everywhere you go. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. I've loved this conversation.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And as you're tuning in, again, we'll put all the links that Laura has mentioned, resources that she's mentioned throughout the podcast episode and ways to reach out to her in the show notes. Thanks so much.